Let's take a look at what you're doing this week in class. We are in Module 4. We're looking at the role of DNA. Here we have our overview, and it also lists the weekly objectives and the weekly assignments. You have your weekly video lecture and your assigned readings. There's quite a few items here in the assigned readings because we are looking at a variety of different processes. First, we look at the overall cell cycle. Cells will go through a dividing and a non-dividing phase. We also look at division of cells, and we have two different types of division. We have mitosis, which you're going to see described here in Chapter 10. This is the production of somatic cells, cells of your body that are not egg and sperm. In Chapter 11, they look at the process of meiosis, is the production of gametes, egg and sperm. There's two different ways to produce new cells depending on what the role of those cells are. Chapter 12 will look at basic patterns of inheritance. When we create egg and sperm and then we cause fertilization, what we want to understand is how this new individual's traits will be a reflection of the parent's traits, and that's what we're looking at in inheritance. I also have a link here for microevolution because you're going to have an assignment about antibiotic resistance, and antibiotic resistance is a great example of evolution that we can actually witness and we can track. We see mutations in organisms that makes it so that that antibiotic doesn't work on them. All the other cells get killed off except these few that are immune basically to the effect of that antibiotic, and then those reproduce, and so we have now a larger population of ones that are no longer influenced by that medication. It's an evolutionary process. It's a process of adaptation. You also have some interactives and some videos that go along with the concepts. You also have some others down here that go along with the specific assignments. These videos and interactives help you learn those concepts a lot better than just reading, so I highly encourage you to use those. And then the ones down here will be things that you will use specifically for these individual assignments. Let's go take a look at those assignments. The first thing you'll be looking at this week is a discussion. It has you go to this made-to-order New York Times story. This is a case study where we're looking at a particular disease called Fanconi anemia, which is an inherited disorder. It is incurable. It'll eventually lead to leukemia. In order to treat this, they will need to do a bone marrow transplant. But the bone marrow transplant needs to be a match. If it's not, then we have other issues where we have a rejection of it, and that can cause a lot of other health issues. So what we are trying to do here is to find a match. We have parents who have one child, they're going to have another child, and then the question is, can they screen these embryos for the presence of the correct genetic makeup that would then allow them to use cells from the fetal tissue after this child is born to treat the child with the disease? What it's asking you to do here is to read through that article and then open this template, take a look at the different images that are there, the diagrams that are from the textbook, put onto this slide presentation specifics about this particular disease and what is happening in this story that we've just read about. These first 6 slides will give you some background. What you're going to do then is to go to slides 7 and 8 and follow the instructions that are written on those slides to alter it so that it is illustrating this concept in these particular parents. When you get ready to submit this assignment, save a new one with slides 7, 8, and 9. To make it a PDF, all you have to do is come over here and do File, and then Save as Adobe PDF. And then you can attach that PDF to the discussion. You're modifying slides 7, 8, and 9, creating a PDF with that. In addition to uploading that PDF, write a reflection which will answer these questions. You want to think about the bioethics of some of those kinds of decisions. It gives you a couple of different links here. One is in general describing the field of bioethics, and then the other is looking at these key questions we have when we think about bioethics. In your reflection, answer these questions. That will be your initial post. So you have your PDF, and then you also have your reflection. In your responses, you want to look at the PDF that your peers have posted. Did you come up with the same solution when you came up with your products of mitosis and meiosis? Were they the same? If not, why do you think they might be different? And then you also want to look at the 2 arguments posed by your peers for question 1 up here, this ethical argument about the Save Your Sibling case study. Which one of their arguments do you find more convincing and why? Take a look at what they've posted here in number 3. Try to answer answer that question. And you might have to do a little bit of research to do that. In assignment 1, after you've read through the chapters, it's asking you to write down a minimum of 3 questions about the concepts that you've learned. Then you're going to go through a couple of Labster simulations. The first one is on DNA structure and function, and then the second one is on Mendelian genetics. What you will submit here is your scores, where you missed points and why. You'll go back to the 3 questions that you came up with as you were reading the chapters and answer those questions based on what you've learned in the Labster simulations. Then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to use an AI tool like ChatGPT and look at the connection between the structure of DNA and the rules of inheritance. How is it that that structure of DNA helps produce the patterns of inheritance that we see? Think about what you get back from this AI, correlate it with what you just learned in Labster, and then summarize that in about 6 to 8 sentences. The other things you're going to include there is describe what prompts you used when you did your AI search. You have your grading rubric down here. These are just the 2 Labster simulations. Your second assignment for this week is going to look at drug resistance. We're looking at microevolution. We're looking at the evolution of antibiotic resistance in bacteria. You'll read through this. You're going to be using a game that essentially looks at antibiotic resistance. Your first step is to go and read a little bit about antibiotic resistance from this site, from the CDC. Click on this one, which is the game. It's having you go through the game in story mode. It wants you to take a screenshot after several rounds, so make sure that you take that screenshot to show that you actually did the game, and then describe what you learned and saw as you were going through this simulation. Make sure that you use some of the specific terms that you saw in your CDC reading. Why do you think the game designer made it difficult to control the bacteria? What are they trying to illustrate there based on the game? Do you think using antibiotics is a helpful way to control bacteria? Why or why not? And would you advise the continued use of antibiotics? In your second part of this, you're going to write a paragraph on how to improve the agent antibiotic game. So describe at least 3 changes that you would make to the design of the game that would make it easier for the bacteria to be destroyed and to slow down the evolution of resistance. For these 3 changes, can you link those changes to a change that you would suggest in real life? And could our drug be made more effective? How could we do that? So you want all of this to be in a single document. When you go and you do your screenshot, you can just copy that screenshot onto a Word doc with the rest of your information that you have here. Down below is your grading rubric. That's everything that you're doing for week 4. If you have any questions along the way, please don't hesitate to contact me. I can either answer your questions in an email or I can arrange to meet with you virtually. Have a great week.